Joe Sixpack, nice to see you and everybody. Welcome to another basement edition of What's Brewing. As you can see, Joe Sixpack basement a little more duded up than my basement. I am forever envious of all of the bottles and marvelous things you have in the background. But nonetheless, here we are. We appreciate everybody for spending this time with us on Facebook Live. Please make sure you check in, tell us what you are drinking today, and feel free to respond to some of the issues we're bringing up. We got a lot of good ones today, including some of the weird things that you can put in beer. You don't want to leave because Joe Sixpack is going to do a daring act that I've been waiting for several days.
We'll see how it goes, Glenn. No promises.
Oh, no, I'm going to back you into that corner, my friend.
We also have a special guest with us today, Scott Broussard from Double Eagle Malting. We've had them on our show before. Scott is a maltster, and he made the malt for this beer that we're going to be tasting a little bit later on. Black is Beautiful. It's a collaboration beer that a number of breweries are making, and he was involved in that. We're going to talk to him about the beer and some of the issues surrounding it.
Terrific. All right, we always like to start with our beer swap. So you go first, man.
Okay. Well, I pulled one out. This is a beer that I got mailed to me from one of those beer clubs called D's Nuts.
I like it already.
It is from Colorado. It is a hazelnut and peanut butter ale. It's made by 105 West Brewing in Colorado. So let's see how this baby is. You used to see a lot of these kind of hazelnut and peanut butter beers back in the day. Not as many anymore. And it's a novelty, I guess.
I am a big fan of the hazelnut. I'm a big fan of peanut butter too. I like hazelnut coffee. The only flavored coffees I like are hazelnut and amaretto, which, as you point out, are kind of the same thing. In fact, I don't have that beer. I'm envious, but I do have some hazelnuts here in my house. So as you drink that, I'm going to eat a hazelnut.
Okay, cheers.
Yeah. All right.
It does taste a lot like hazelnut. It's a little bit more peanut butter than the hazelnut. It's not bad. It's a basic brown ale, not particularly heavy. I think it's a good mark. It's pretty decent.
All right. While you enjoy that, as you know, I went up last week to Cape Cod. The reason we didn't do the show, got away for a little bit, which was nice. Just getting anywhere these days is nice. Didn't do a whole lot, but sat outside in the sun. But one of the beers I got up there, Cloud Candy. This is right up my alley. It's from Mighty Squirrel Brewing in Waltham, Massachusetts. A deep, hazy orange. You'll see, like a golden orange. IPA, New England IPA, got papaya, mango, starfruit, a smooth, crisp finish. It is made a double dry hop, made with Citra Mosaic and Amarillo.
It looks pretty good.
Delicious.
Is it?
Yeah, just great. I mean,
name.
as you know, I like any beer that I cannot see you through, and so I like this one, nice and opaque. Let's talk about some of the things some of our friends are drinking. Gary Hill is drinking a DS Solver, I Superior I from Asheville, North Carolina. You know that one?
No, I don't. Asheville has a lot of breweries, though.
Ross Hallam is having a Weekend Warrior Hazy Pale Ale by Double Nickel. Mike Monteleone, Lips and Lungs by Short Throw Brewing. That's a real beer?
That's a hell of a name for a brewery, too.
When we talk about ingredients that people like to put in beers, like foods that people put in beer, Lips and Lungs not on my list. All right, let's get to some of our topics, and we got to start with the bad news. So hold the beer in your hand to wash this one down. A lot of closings during the pandemic, and you've got some updates.
Yeah, this is some bad news for people who've been drinking in Philadelphia for a while. But Mike Klein in the Inquirer reported this week that Manny Brown's on South Street has closed. Place has been around since the 80s. It was always a dependable place for good beer selection. You know, had the barbecue thing going on now. It was basically a mainstay on South Street, and it's, going to close, I guess, because of the pandemic. Bad news there.
A real institution, too. That's not good. Not the first place. Unfortunately, not the last. You had some others that.
Yeah, there's already been a couple that came through. We talked, I think, a little bit ago about Mad River and Manny, the Bards in the city. Great place for a Guinness is closed. And also this week, which was really a high-end kind of beer experience, was Bainbridge Street Barrel House put out a note to its on its social media that it couldn't hang in there any longer either. It had to close as well.
It's a shame. And we talked about a lot of the small breweries, brew pubs that don't make it, in large part because they don't distribute outside, but restaurants, good places to drink. It's really a shame to see this. Joe Sixpack, I hope we get out of this at some point.
Boy, I tell you, the way it's dragging is just, it's August. I don't think we expected it. I thought by August things would have shaped up by enough that we would have been able to go to a beer garden or indoors and dining by now. It's just really happening. I'm actually scared that it's going to fall back, that we're going to see it get worse before it gets better.
Yeah. By the way, Bill, here guys drinking an old standard Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, perfectly great drink.
Can't beat it.
Dan Cooper said he has tried the Black is Beautiful from Locust Lane, or at Locust Lane.
Locust Lane made a version of it. I don't know anything about that one. It's interesting, and I'd love to hear from anybody that has had Black is Beautiful, because it was made by a number of different breweries. I imagine there's going to be different flavors or slight tweaks and so on in the beer.
And Katie Ann says, enjoying a Tonewood monotone mosaic. Her husband Justin is drinking The Monkey and the Engineer from 8 and Sand. We've been out to 8 and Sand. We like their stuff. Good stuff. So balance with the bad news, little good news coming out of Glassboro.
Yeah, speaking of New Jersey breweries there with Tonewood and 8 and Sand, Bones Brewing in Glassboro sends along word that they're going to double their seating area with an indoor beer garden up on their second floor. The project's going to probably come into fruition sometime late this fall or winter. People, if you have not been to Bonesaw Brewing, do yourself a favor, go there. Beer is spectacular and the place is beautiful. And good news for those who have gone there and couldn't get parking, they're going to expand their parking lot as well. So great news over there in Glassboro. All
right, and also, finally, to wrap up the news, you say there is some noise that there's a new brewery coming in Norristown.
Right, Von C Brewing. I met the folks behind this a number of months ago who were just sort of whispering word of it, but now they got a website. They're up on online. I'm not sure what plan to open, but they want to open up a pretty good size 20-barrel, 16,000 square foot microbrewery in Norristown, up by the Elmwood Park Zoo, if you're familiar with that area. So they're going to be brewing up there. Hopefully, I wouldn't expect them to be open maybe by the end of the year, I guess. But anyway, interesting backstory here is that the Von C, they get their name from their family, which was the Von Zernick family, which has strong Philly beer-making roots. Their founder's grandfather is the great-grandson of Christian Schmidt.
As in Schmitz?
Exactly. He was a master brewer for them. So that's pretty cool cred to have in your family.
When you said their name was Von Cernick, I thought you were saying Al Cervic. Do you know who Al Cervic is in the movies?
No, I don't.
Al Cervic is the character that Rodney Dangerfield played in Caddyshack. One of my favorites.
All right.
Random fact of the day.
Way to pull
right. So, as we said, we're both kind of stuck at home right now doing the show. By the way, people ask, when's the TV show coming back? All I can tell you is we're working on it. We would be delighted to get back. Hang in there. We expect to eventually. But during the pandemic, people aren't going out as much. So we kind of asked the question on social media over the last 4 or 5 months, where is your favorite place to drink? And we left it wide open. It could be their house, near their house, their friend's house, could be a public place, whatever. We got some interesting results. Before we get to that, other than this backdrop I'm looking at right now, your favorite place?
Well, I actually did some real productive work since the spring. I have a nice property in the Roxborough section, and I redid my backyard, which I had not been using very much, but I took out a lot of things, planted some stuff, and I built myself an actual fire pit. And
Oh,
so it is, of course, it's been only like 98 degrees every day, so
yeah.
not a lot of fires at the moment, but we've had a lot of great beers out there, and I'm looking forward to, as the temperature cools down, I'll be sitting out there a lot more.
Very nice. All right. So here's what some people wrote back to us. A lot of people, their backyard, their deck, whatever. Stephen Golub says the deck of my sister-in-law's in Caroga Lake, New York. Not sure. Brian Sokolovsky says, I had a couple. He said Steve Austin's Broken Skull IPA on the porch of a rental house last week down Ocean City. That's my happy place. And he said he also went to tour Cape May Brewery in the last week, went to visit there. So that's good to hear.
Good spot.
Jay Moyer, could be Jamie Moyer, the ex-Phillies pitcher, not sure, said the Imprint Beer Garden in Skipack is a cool new place, easy to social distance, plenty of beer and cocktail choices. You know Imprint Beer Garden?
I didn't know they had a beer garden there. That's one of these places that opened up in a warehouse or an office park or whatever. So I guess they put in something there so people can enjoy their beer outside.
Chet Chesko, excuse me, I know Chet, sent a picture of himself in his pool on the raft holding a beer, of course, why not? Backyard swimming pool. I love this. Pete Carilla, and I know you've met Pete, you may not remember it. He's a good beer enthusiast. He grows his own hops, some of which he's donated to Conshohocken Brewing. He says, I have my Archie Bunker chair in my house. The cats have destroyed it, but it's right by the TV and a short walk to the fridge. Mark Thompson, by the way, great singer, Mark Thompson. I've done a couple of stage plays with him. Got some new rocking chairs on the front porch, just sitting back and people watching. That's the way to spend the time.
So what we're hearing from most people is just hanging at their house. They found a spot that they can enjoy. It's interesting. I mean, we do see pictures of people going out to beer gardens. We've seen a lot of pictures where, not necessarily in Philly, but a lot of drinking in non-socially distant kinds of venues, unfortunately.
Often on the beach. Just two more. Bill McClellan says Kings Road Brewing Company. I don't know that place.
Haddonfield, yes. I haven't been there. I was there to the original place. They moved to a new one last year, I believe.
And our friend Andrew Colligan says you can't beat beers on the golf course. Those taste especially good.
There we go. On the golf course is a great place to be. Although 19th hole, I guess, is where the real action's at.
Yeah, well, I've been known to pack a six-pack on the golf cart. All right, so we're going to try this Black is Beautiful beer, right? And you're going to tell us about it. We're going to get our guest.
Yeah, our guest is not ready for us yet, but I think we should go ahead and try and give it a taste a bit and talk about it first before he shows up.
All right, tell me about this. You said it's a nationwide collaboration.
Yes, it is. Well, it was the idea of Weathered Souls Brewing, which is down in San Antonio, Texas, and I'm going to pour mine as well. You're pouring yours.
Wow, that's pretty. I mean, this is 30 weight motor oil here, pal.
Really, it's a 10% alcohol imperial stout. So it is heavy duty stuff.
By the way, it's got those tiny little Guinness bubbles going on.
Oh my! Wow.
Oh, I like it. Oh, I like it a lot.
It is strong. It's deep. It's bitter. It's got all those kind of really amazing roasty notes that you want out of a big stout like this. May not be the best beer for a 90-degree day, but it's going to take me a little while to sip through this one. But
I got the air conditioning on, so it's perfectly fine around here. It's pretty good. Let me tell you a few other things until our guest gets here, and we'll talk more about it, but I always like to tell you what people are drinking. Fred Eichelberger is having a Warwick Farm Vivid Delusions Hazy IPA. The aforementioned Mark Thompson, I already praised his singing. He is joining us drinking a Sterling Pig Shoat Pilsner.
We've had that before. That was one of our earlier brew downs in which we had the bracket and everything, the Shoat Pilsner.
Richard Schwartz says, I'm watching you sitting on the patio at Pizza Boy in Harrisburg, enjoying their no end in sight. Sweet. And George Cesarini is having a Elbow Fives double IPA from Crooked Stave in Denver.
Well, Crooked Stave is the beer that you were shocked at how much I liked their rosé beer We did a little stand-up at Conchi Brewing at Town Tap, and I went nuts about that beer. It was spectacular.
Yeah.
One of my favorite beers of last year.
Yeah, it was horrible. Everybody's got their own taste. I did not like that one at all. Okay. So you say this beer.
We've got Scott Broussard here. Let me get him into the show, and we can talk a little bit with him about what's going on with this beer and the whole story behind it. He's connecting now. I love him, don't you, Glenn? I mean, it's so cool. I mean, everything we can do with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It is pretty amazing. One thing that I saw from your notes is this thing sold out in 1 day. Amazing.
Yeah.
Tell Scott to make sure he gets his audio on.
Yeah, I'm asking.
There you go.
Oh, we go. Scott. Hey, Scott. How you doing?
Doing very well. Yourself?
We're great. We just opened up. The Black is Beautiful. We couldn't wait for you. We wanted to drink right away. Good. We're all on the
Cheers.
same page. So this is a big time stout, 10% alcohol, and malt is sort of the shining star of this beer. It seems. I mean, it is malty for any beer. You make malt. Tell us a little bit, first of all, about how this beer was made, with the malt end of things of this beer.
Okay. So everything that we do at Double Eagle is locally grown. We take a lot of pride in supporting small local family farms. So this batch was grown by Lloyd Goshall in Royersford, Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia. Obviously malted by me over in Hunting Valley, and then taken down to Love City to make this delicious beer that you're trying now.
And the beer was made with Love City and a couple other local brewers as well.
Correct. So Love City is where the beer was brewed, but we also partnered with Harris Family Brewing, based out of Harrisburg, which is soon to be the first Black-owned brewery in Pennsylvania. Also, Two Locals Brewing, who is in the planning stages, a little bit earlier in the planning stages, looking for locations in Philadelphia right now. They're going to be the first Black-owned brewery in Philadelphia. Get out of the way, should say, particularly as people of color, access to capital is very difficult. They have online stores where they sell shirts and glasses and whatnot, and going and supporting them that way can really help out in startup costs and getting them going.
Give the name one more time so people hear it.
Two Locals Brewing. Their website is twolocalsbrewing.com, and Harris Family Brewery, which is harrisfamilybrewery.net.
So as we're drinking this, and Joe Sixpack pointed this out earlier, and I just got another message from somebody, this collaboration tastes a little bit different at every place that makes it. Jeff Martin just said, I'm drinking a Black is Beautiful from Love City, Two Locals, and one from Attic in Germantown. They're all very good. So it's each place you get, it's going to be a little bit different.
Yes, correct. So basically the way that the Black is Beautiful program came about was there was a brewery out of San Antonio, Texas called Weathered Souls. And he put out all the graphics for the beer as well as the recipe for the beer. But one thing that was kind of exciting about this program, especially, is that he encouraged a little bit of deviation, a little bit of customization. So our recipe, not only did it use, local malt, which to me is particularly exciting. Aside from that, there's also 105 pounds of toasted coconut that got added to the recipe.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. And I think it's not overwhelming, but it does really well with the flavor, with that roastiness. In a way, it sort of softens it and gives it more than just one dimension.
Correct.
So the beer, though, and there's a great backstory behind this beer, which is, and we want to get into it a little bit here, but the idea here was that this beer would be made by as many brewers that wanted to make it, and the idea was that they would donate proceeds from the sale of the beer to social justice causes out there. And this beer in particular was brewed to support Black Lives Matter, right?
Yes, the Philadelphia chapter.
So, I guess, my question for you is, why Black Lives Matter, and why did you get involved in this beer in the first place?
So for me, through a lot of the protests and things that have been going on for the past several months, I was trying to figure out how I wanted to contribute both personally and professionally, and really trying to figure out whatever worked for me. And it all came together because it was June 1st. I was coming home from work and passed by my local police precinct, which was being patrolled by a bunch of individuals in the neighborhood with bats who were there to protect the police station, which it kind of had all the trappings of a lynch mob, in, opinion, and it was really terrifying for me. And that whole week was kind of for me because there was a lot of talk about Black Lives Matter specifically, and a lot of resistance to it. Probably cried a dozen times that week at the reactions over the whole movement and the implications that Black lives don't matter or they're unimportant. So that's what really made me want to act strongly, and that was very important in particular for me to do something that would raise funding for Black Lives Matter, because not only can we get them some funding, but also really want to get the name out there and not only show my support, but give others a way to show their support and really get people talking about it. This is not, in my opinion, a controversial statement.
Well, your activism is to be applauded, but any statement is a political and controversial statement these days. That's just the way the world is these days. When you decided to do this, you must have had to balance, is this gonna work for me economically? Is this gonna cost me? Is this gonna be good? What thoughts went through your mind? Did you have any misgivings?
At that moment, no. Overall, sure. I think anybody running a business would, wonder about, what sort of implications or pushback there might be when they want to make a statement, politically, socially, whatever it may be. Certainly after that experience outside the police station, I didn't care anymore. I thought that it was super important. But it's also just it's been very, very heartening to see the reaction of the brewing community and see so many people joining the Black is Beautiful campaign when nobody's asked them to, and it's been a really great sign, and I think some of that I can chalk up to the community aspect of a lot of these breweries and craft right now.
Yeah, I can agree with you to an extent, Scott, but it may be more the times that we're living in here. If you had asked somebody 2 years ago to make a beer called Black is Beautiful and say that you were going to donate the money to Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, I think you would have gotten a lot more pushback on it than you would today.
Yeah, I would agree.
So that incident, by the way, I mean, it struck a lot of us. That was in Fishtown. It was my former neighborhood. And I'm really happy to see that, as ugly as that was, that it inspired a lot of people to act. And here we have an incident. This is a great example of how, something like that can happen and create something for the good, I hope.
Yeah. By the way, let me just, as we do the show, Scott, we like to ask our people what they're drinking. Gary Hill says he's drinking a Black is Beautiful from Burial Hill. He says that one 14.4%. Hello.
How?
You're right. I guess everybody does their own way. How about that? Wow.
Are they getting all that from malt?
They used to Pilsner yeast.
Pete
they must be throwing in some sort of sugar in there.
Pete Sauer is drinking a Blood Money IPA from Conshohocken Brewing. Very much appreciate that. Heather Marie Hunter, I have not heard of this Joe Sixpack. We may have to do a segment on this. She is drinking a beer called Bleep COVID by Ale Asylum. I had not heard about that.
That's a good one. I have not either to track it down. Good name.
Bleep COVID. Anyway.
So, Scott, the other thing that strikes me during all this is that I think this Black is Beautiful campaign has sort of brought to the forefront is sort of the dearth of minority members of the craft brewing world. We don't see a whole lot of minority ownership of breweries. It's starting to pick up. I'm happy to hear about two locals and Harris Family, but they are the outliers right now. Your own observations about that. What's taken so long and what can help move it along?
So there's a couple of barriers when it comes to people of color being involved in brewing, but you could say the same about women in brewing to some degree, or for people of color specifically, outside of the cultural aspects and the appearances of things, one of the big barriers professionally is capital for owning their own businesses. And then another one of the barriers is experience. So getting your foot in the door, getting that first job at a brewery, it's, sleeping the floors, running a bottling line. So I've been really excited to see a couple big announcements recently. First, Garrett Oliver obviously announced something a couple of days ago where he is putting together a program offering paid internships for people of color in the brewing industry, which is one of the things. He's got some big money behind that. One of the ones that I'm a little bit more excited about, because it just speaks a little bit more towards my particular interests, is a farm brewery internship program put together by, make sure I get this right, Christopher Ganzi of Daleview Biscuits and Beer in New York, and Christopher Innes, who's at Rockaway Brewing Company. And so they put together this program, and they're raising funds on their own, looking at all different aspects from front of house to back of house in running a brewery, and really trying to get people of color involved. So we've seen the Pink Boots Society, what they've done, and there are some movements that are really starting right now and picking up some steam, and I'm excited to see that. I don't have a way right now to support financially either of those. I'm looking into it, but as soon as I find it, I can share it with you.
Okay.
All right. Before we let you go, we got one more here. Michael Brzezinski says he's drinking a Black is Beautiful from Vitamin C Brewing. I'm assuming these are all related. He says the one he's drinking is a blackberry fruited sour. Could that be, or somebody else use the same name?
That sounds like a different recipe to me, but
yeah. Okay.
That's what's exciting about craft, is you never know what you're going to get. People like to think outside the box.
It raises the question of whether brewers have a tough time reading recipes or something. That would definitely be nuts.
That's a whole different ball of wax. Anyway, Scott, thank you so much. We applaud what you're doing. We really appreciate it. And one more time, I'd love you to give the website for the startup brewery that those Black gentlemen are working to build in the city.
Yes, harrisfamilybrewery.net is in Harrisburg. They're going to be open shortly. Keep an eye out for them. And Two Locals Brewing is one you're referring to, is currently looking for a location in Philadelphia. Each of them have online stores. And as I said, if you go and buy something, it goes towards their startup costs and really goes a long way in helping them get across that finish line and opening their doors.
Well, we applaud you for this, because this is just delicious.
Thank you, Scott Broussard from Double Eagle up in Huntington Valley, and the malt makers. You guys are making a lot of great malts. I've had many of your beers, and this was a good one. So thanks for joining us here on What's Brewing.
Thank you.
All right. Joe Sixpack, as we move along, I'll give you an update on what people are drinking. Kevin Kelly is having, he says, two favorites while I watch your show: Bucket Brigade and Cape May Courthouse Hidden Sands. And I think he's basically saying this is where he likes to hang out. Gotcha. Yeah. Mike Bonner says, I'm having my last stout Sly Fox Black Lager on the deck. Good for him. And Christopher Donald checking in with a heady topper that somehow find its way to my local distributor. Shout out to the Great Beer Old School Beer Garden at Otto's in Horsham.
Love that place. What a spectacular spot. And by the way, I keep seeing heady toppers show up too. It's up at my local beer distributor, which I keep forgetting to pick you up some.
Yeah, please. I love that stuff. You know that. All right. So in talking to Scott, it raises a good issue of beers are listen, everything's becoming more political, and so I guess beers are as well.
Well, the thing is, you didn't used to see breweries do this because, you didn't want to piss off, some of your customers if you took a stand on something. So I'm happy to see that brewers can now do that, and we've started to see some others. I want to say though, before I move on with some of these beers, is that, the thing is, beer has always been political. I don't know, you probably get it too, Glenn, with on the sports end of thing, where you write something that's political, and somebody says, stick to sport, stick to beer.
Oh yeah.
And, my feeling is, actually sports is political, and certainly beer is political. It's always has been political, especially in our country, where the American Revolution was actually founded in pubs. So, the idea of mixing politics and beer is absolutely, not anything new. And the other thing I should point out is that nobody ever complained about these, beer makers taking a political stand when it was, the likes of Coors Brewing that was contributing money to the Heritage Foundation and supporting their right-wing causes. So this has gone on for a long time.
Well, here's what I've noticed, because there was some brushback for Coors, not for Coors, I'm sorry. There was some brushback for Yuengling, I know, when they got involved in certain activities. And so here's what I know. People will say, stick to sports or stick to beer when your opinion doesn't match theirs.
Yeah.
They don't mind you spreading out as long as you agree with whatever they're coming from. But if not, then it's a problem. All right, so give us some other examples.
Yeah, so we've seen a number of them. Brooklyn, well, and Trump actually has spurred some of these beers, including Brooklyn Freeze Brewing back in 2017 during the Trump inauguration. They released a beer called Courage My Love, which was described as a beer full of hops and hope. And 10% of the proceeds were earmarked through the ACLU. And that was, the owner of that brewery said something, really important, I thought, and that is that we're going to stand up for what we believe in. We're not a political organization, we're a beer company, but if you can't defend your own values and virtue, then what are you? So I think that says it perfectly. And there's been a few others. Among my favorites was Smaltz Brewing, which made She Brew. They're the folks that make Hebrew beer. She Brew Double IPA, which put funds towards Planned Parenthood. And finally, in 2019, the last year for JBF, there was the Session IPA silver medalist was called Trump Hands, and we that
was called what? Trump what?
Trump Hands.
Trump hands.
Well,
listen, I would expect as we get closer to the election, which we are now 96 days away, there's going to be a lot of this. And I would imagine, depending on what part of the country you live in, it's going to be anti-Trump or anti-Biden beer, and it's going to be fascinating to watch.
I think you're right, except I'm really going to go out there and say there's not going to be a whole lot of pro-Trump beers out there, because I know.
Well, not here.
Brewing.
I think it depends whether you live in a red state or a beer state. But you're right. As an overall thing, the industry certainly leans Democrat. Okay, this is the part of the show I've been really looking forward to. In fact, I just put on social media for people to join us. There's going to be some great stuff going on.
Glad you're a sick man here.
Oh, no. So I found a story about a new beer that's coming out, French's mustard beer, right? Just your basic standard mustard. They have teamed up, and this surprised me because they teamed up with Oscar Blues, which to me is a big, strong, leading national brewery. And they are making French's mustard beer with the old original yellow recipe. Launches tomorrow, as a matter of fact. If you remember last year, they did French's mustard ice cream. You enjoyed some of that, didn't you?
I don't really remember that one.
Okay. Well, they're saying that
bad, this has got to be worse. Come on.
It's saying it pairs the punchiness of the sandwich sauce with hints of key lime, lemon, tangerine, and passion fruit. It's tart, it's sharp, it's reminiscent of a cider, and dare we say, great with a ballpark Frank.
Yeah, we
okay.
have a hot dog beer a couple weeks ago, so.
which wasn't all made by Sheets, was not all, or made by who was Sheets?
Chamonix Creek. The
Chamonix Creek.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is a beer that is made with mustard, but we asked our audience, what other foods would you put in beer, not to make the beer, but in a beer, because you and I are going to do this in a moment. Here's some of the ones we got. Stanley Twarek said he enjoys a couple of oysters in a spicy ghost.
That sounds like a good combination. I mean, I've had oysters before in, I guess, champagne, I guess it was. So you could mix that in pretty well, I would think.
All right. Jeff Martin said, well, he's going to try something we're going to try. I'm going to leave him out for a minute. Bill Glavin says, I knew a girl back in the 1970s who could only drink beer if it was mixed in tomato juice. I tried it. It's quite tasty. I mean, almost like a Bloody Mary, I guess.
Yeah, I've seen those before. Well, I think Budweiser made one at one point too. So
is that right?
Yeah,
that was awful.
Maybe.
Somebody, here's my favorite. Somebody named Beer Liker, good name, said a couple of dashes of Frank's Red Hot in a Kenwood beer. And then Kenwood Beer responded and said, Glenn, ever make an entire buffalo chicken cheesesteak with Frank's Red Hot, just drop it directly in your pint of lager, roll it all. Now that's craft beer. There you go.
Yeah, I don't think so, man.
I don't think so. But we got into this because I found a story that said if you take a lager, and I got a lager, hold on. I got my nice Yingling, right? Your nice standard good lager. They said, if you want to get more taste out of your lager, you pour the lager. I'm going to do this. All right? And then, to make it taste better, you take some pickles. Now, what I don't have today is dill slices, which is really what they recommended, but to be honest with you, I'm not going out to the supermarket any more than I need to. And what I had in my house is some nice McClure bread and butter pickles. Good pickles. Joe Sixpack, I'm going to take my lager, take my pickles, and I'm going to put a nice hefty amount of pickles in this lager, if you can see.
Okay.
You know what? I'm gonna just add some of the pickle juice. Why not? We're going full hog. Now, the one thing it said is give it a couple of minutes. So
that we can spend those couple of minutes dissecting exactly where you are in your beer drinking career that has brought you to exactly to that.
We may. By the way, there is a partnership between Best Made Pickles and Martin House Brewing Company out in Texas that have had the Best Made Sour Pickle beer. I don't know if I want to try that. It's also goes, but while we let this baby ferment, you had something else. In fact, before you do this yourself, and there's no backing out, pal, you wanted to show a little film clip.
Yeah, hold on. Let me see if I can share my screen here. We've had some issues with this, but I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going on. Give me a second here, Glenn.
Yeah. One of my favorite movies you're going to be showing here.
Yes, I believe this is the opening scene here of The Verdict.
That is a very underrated Paul Newman movie. If people haven't seen it, it's a classic. Here we go. He's a down and out lawyer who doesn't have a client or a case. And in the opening scene here, as you see, he's just hanging around a seedy bar playing pinball. And then let's see what he's going to do. All right, now, Paul Newman just drank a raw egg in a beer.
All right, Glenn, and I know Mrs. Sixpack is watching the show too, so she's going to probably wince at this as well, and come running down here in a second, warning me of salmonella. But I'm going to try this because I'm a man and I can do it. I think.
Oh, I love this.
I'm using this hip check from Victory Brewing, nice Pilsner, and I'm going to crack an egg into it.
You know what this reminds me of, in a certain way, is the scene in Rocky, where he just drinks the 6 raw eggs just out of the glass.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Oh, come on, man. No.
All right, that egg is in there.
Very disappointed. Very
Yum,
disappointed.
it's really good.
Yeah. All right. Well, while you may have chickened out, I now have this nice Yingling lager with all of these pickles in it, and I am about to try it. I've had worse. So here's what it does. It adds salt, obviously. It adds a little tang. I don't know that I'd want to do it on a regular basis, but it's not disgusting. Listen, why do we eat pretzels with beer, right? Why do we like salty food with beer? This is just kind of cutting out the middleman.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Although I'm not sure he's going to.
You know what?
Beers.
second taste was not as good.
Well, I would have to say that this beer is pretty darn good, actually.
Yeah.
It's really, you know, it's not a. It's a bit of a yoke of a beer, I think. So.
I really thought you were going to do it. I had really hopes that you were going to.
You didn't read the fine print on the rules, Glenn.
Yeah, I know. All right, let me just give you a couple more things that people are drinking. Mary Jude Szymanski, is having a nice Victory Prima Pils. Always a good beer to be drinking, no question about it. Fred Eichelberg is having a Warwick Farms. I think I said that one earlier. Never mind, Fred. You don't get on twice with that one. Kurt Barlow is having a Smoke in the Leather Jacket. I don't know that that's a beer or just what he's doing right now. And asking what people do, Rick Tobias says he drops a shot of amaretto in a light beer. It tastes just like a Dr. Pepper.
I could see that. Absolutely. There is like that little. Dr. Pepper has got what? It's like prune juice and hazelnuts or something like that, isn't it?
I don't know. I thought it was cherry Coke. But you and I have done a thing, and maybe we'll do it again someday on the shot and the beer and different, mixing liquor and beer. So that's kind of what he's doing. Jack Morris said he's having a Big Oyster Tower Road. Is that made with oyster?
Might be. I don't know. They used to make beer with oysters. Yards did it years ago. And it's a good beer. You don't really taste the oyster in it, though.
All right. By the way, your recipe, at least the real recipe, is supposed to be a good hangover recipe.
Yeah, that's the word. I think it would give you a hangover, actually. But the story about raw eggs in beer goes way back to a play. What was it? Did I read somewhere the Elizabethan doctors would prescribe it to help balance the body's humors, which I love. But it was what actually in Pennsylvania it was known as the miner's breakfast, MINER's breakfast, and miners would drink it on the way, an egg in their beer, usually a Yingling, in fact, on the way to the coal mines.
By the way, you are taking some shots on our Facebook Live page for chickening out there. Mike Monteleone says, "Lame, Joe Sixpack, lame." Kurt Barlow said, "That's a Chicago thing. Let it stay there." I don't know if that's true. Christopher Donald said he's been to the Caribbean and seen people put a raw egg in Guinness. There you go.
It sounds just like Paul Newman. It's breakfast in a beer glass.
And Hot Rod Matt wanted to ask you if that beer is excellent.
Yeah, it is. It is.
There you go. All right. I could read these all day, and we really do appreciate everybody who checks in during the show because we enjoy doing it. As we said, we hope to be back on TV sometime. During the summer, we're both taking some vacation and so on. So we're kind of doing it sporadically, but it's a good chance for us to drink beer.
It is, and see our faces together with
the
friends.
All right. You got any brilliant closing words?
Hang in there and go Phillies.
Well, listen to me tomorrow morning at 10, and Ray Dinger and I will talk about the Phillies. I don't have a lot of optimism on that front. My best suggestion is continue drinking, everybody. We'll get through this one way or another. And applause to this one, particularly today. This was really nice, enjoyed it, and it's a great cause.
Yeah, thanks to Scott Broussard from Double Eagle. And really, I love the beer. I'm going to finish the rest of mine in the post-production meeting after this.
There you go. Joe Sixpack, until we meet again, cheers, and thanks for watching, everybody.
Cheers.